Welcome to Half-Time Review, everyone. It's our pleasure to be joined by Greig Paterson this evening. Greg is the Head of Coach Education and Development at the Scottish FA. We'll be discussing coaching pathways. And as always, feel free to use the chat box throughout and throw your questions in there for Greg, and we'll pass them on. Greg, many thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure. If you want to kick us off.
Guys, as I say, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be asked on and give this kind of webinar, and I'll do my best. As I say, I'm sure some of you have got better things to do on a Tuesday evening, but thanks for coming on and thanks for supporting the guys. I've got a kind of presentation I'll run through. They were keen to, Lloyd and George were keen to chat through kind of coaching pathways. So I'll do my best on that, and then happy to take questions at the end. I'll just chat through some of the new initiatives on the UEFA pathway, and that might obviously affect how you do things in the future. So that's there as the guys introduced me. So I'm Greig Paterson, Head of Coach Education and Development at the Scottish FA. I started as a football development officer with Big Kevin Somerville down there in Dumfries, way back nearly 20 years ago. Then moved up to Glasgow to do the same role. Then went across to Ireland as National Coordinator of Coach Education, but very quickly we economic climate dictated that unfortunately a lot of people lost their job, and we restructured a little bit, and I was made Coach Education Manager, fortunately enough. And then I came back to Scotland 4.5 years ago, originally as Coach Education Manager, and then again a bit of contingency planning for those of you that will know Donald Park and Jim Fleeting, and kind of a wee bit kind of overwhelmed to be taken over from guys like that and kicking on with the Head of Coach Education and Development since then. So I was on another webinar a couple of weeks ago and Michael Beale was chatting about how he likes to take people on a journey, and he enjoys journeys with groups of people. And I suppose looking at that there, I'm a little bit like that myself, one football development officer job into another, FAI, kind of two roles, being promoted from one into the other, and then similar story again with the Scottish FA. So again, enjoying that journey with groups of people, as Michael said, that I quite liked. That's me under normal circumstances this time of year. I'm normally at Oriam, although it might not be snowing, but I've generally moved through to Oriam in Edinburgh, and we're delivering our UEFA licence courses for probably a period of about 4 weeks. However, this seems to be the current situation for us all just now, in that we're all on these webinars and we're all trying to learn as best we can, virtually or online. So our Scottish FA Coach Education vision is basically I kind of set this lofty ambition 4 years ago of becoming world class. And to be honest, I was embarrassed saying world class, but it's given us a good bit of alignment. And all the staff now talk about, they'll correct me, Greg, that's not good enough. It's not world class, and we genuinely won't push things out now unless we think it is world class and world leading. So it's been a good benchmark for us to try and attain. And we try and achieve that, as it says there, from the grassroots right through to the professional game. That's our pathway. Well, some of you will be on, or others will be looking at. So that's where we're currently at. Very proud of our pathway in that we've got the main youth and adult pathway here over on the left-hand side where my cursor is. Then I've a goalkeeping pathway, a children's pathway, a futsal pathway, and then we've got all these specialist courses on the right hand side as well. Our introduction to coaching course straddles absolutely everything at the bottom, so we've made that change as of January this year, putting that introduction to coaching right along the bottom, along with the children's wellbeing. So no matter what course you want to do, we make sure that children's wellbeing is completed, and then your introduction to coaching, and then you can kick on and specialise from there on in. So I've circled the UEFA B licence because I probably think the UEFA B licence, I'm saying probably, I think the UEFA B licence is probably our most critical course. If I look back in my own career, maybe 20 years ago, there wasn't many B licences. There was only one B licence a year with 40 odd, maybe 40 people on it. Now we're doing a B licence, we'd probably do a B licence for 200, 250 people a year, and that's just Scotland. So you can imagine the scope of that across Europe and how prevalent a UEFA B licence now is. And of course, as it shows there as well, the UEFA B licence, you can go up here to UEFA A, you can go across to do the UEFA goalkeeping A, you can actually go and do a futsal B licence as well, although we don't have it after the UEFA B licence. So as I say, I think the B licence is integral to a lot of the things. There's our B licence cover there. Was delivered that over the past 2 weeks, and that what we've decided to do during this time is basically lift a lot of the theory work and deliver it virtually online over Zoom. And it's worked very well. In some instances, it might even have worked better. We're currently going through the A licence just now. We're on day 2 of the first course, and that's the programme that we've put together there for the A licence. So you can see there, I'm just hot off the heels of coming away from delivering systems of play on Tuesday afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon we'll go into the tactical themes along with injury rehab and different things. So that's what we're currently doing with the A licence just now, to so that we've still got some level of activity during this time. So I'm not sure I like the new normal, and people say, what's going to happen now, Greg? Are you going to keep doing things online? I don't know. I've not got a crystal ball, but I think the crystal ball needs to be matched up with some kind of research and development. But that's probably what it feels like just now, because to try and marry that all up, and we don't know, let's be honest, we don't know how we're going to come out of this period. We're only in phase 1 in Scotland still, as far as the government are concerned. So what that new normal will like, we don't know. Will it be blended learning, bits and bobs of this online, when traditionally coach education has always been face-to-face, but the online stuff is working well for us just now. So a little bit of crystal ball gazing. I think we need to do our own research and development into how well the last 10 weeks has went for us as well, and then see if there's maybe a hybrid between the two. So, as I say, the lads wanted to chat to me about, I've mentioned that transition to online learning. I'll chat through these kind of new courses, I think, that are coming up for us now, the C licence, the Youth B, Goalkeeping B, performance analysis and things that we've got with the Scottish FA. So that's kind of the new, that big red box there, that red box there is the UEFA pathway. So everything below that is up to ourselves. Everything that's within that red box there isn't dictated as much by UEFA, but UEFA have a minimum criteria of what we must deliver or what we must attain, I suppose, at those levels, and that's governed by the UEFA Coaching Convention. You might hear people talk about that UEFA Coaching Convention from time to time. What they're also adding in is this UEFA Youth B licence, which I think is a good addition, because sometimes I think it's to go from a B licence into an A licence and then do a youth licence. Do you do the senior game and then the youth game? I'm not so sure, but they do allow people to do these as a combined approach, the A licence and the youth A licence. So that's where they're at. So I think that youth B licence, that when it does come in, will be a good addition to most pathways around Europe. That's where it looks like as far as youth are concerned. I've obviously highlighted that in our pathway, in the Scottish FA pathway, but that's what these new courses, or new diplomas as they call them, looks like from a UEFA perspective. So to break that down a wee bit further, the UEFA C licence, we haven't yet, the UEFA Coaching Convention, so 55 countries in Europe, and we've not yet received the UEFA Coaching Convention criteria for what that UEFA C licence diploma looks like. There's a huge fallacy for me throughout Europe that I've got a UEFA C licence. You don't. Nobody does. There's no such thing. Up until this point in time, there's no such thing as a UEFA C licence. So anybody that tells you they've got a UEFA C licence, you can tell them they're talking a load of codswallop. They've probably got an IFA C licence. I know Alfie Wiley's in this call somewhere maybe. We've probably got a Scottish FA C licence, an Italian C licence, but to me, there's no such thing as a UEFA C licence. Some countries might call it that, but in terms of the UEFA Coaching Convention, there is no such thing. So as you can see there, UEFA are talking about it being 60 hours to focus mainly on grassroots, and now that will be mandatory before B licence. So if I can just skip back, if I can, anything below that red line, previously we had done what we wanted. It might be easier in the UEFA pathway. So you can see that dotted line there. So anything but previous to that dotted line. So the national futsal certificate on that side, the national goalkeeping certificate on this side, that's up to each individual association what they do. But as soon as we hit that dotted line now, UEFA, as I said earlier, UEFA kind of overlook and oversee what's being delivered and set those minimum criteria so that we've got a quality assurance throughout Europe. So this US license will now be mandatory before the B license, and they've talked about this integration of the C license into the B license, but again, we're still to see what that criteria essentially looks like. I've mentioned the UEFA B Youth or the UEFA Youth B. Again, talking about that 60-hour course, and you can get into that. The pathway from that will be from that UEFA B license. And then we were fortunate enough that Jim Stewart's been on the kind of UEFA goalkeeper alongside Packy Bonner, and of course Packy Bonner still lives in Scotland, ex-Celtic player, and although he's very Irish, and I was fortunate enough to work under Packy in Ireland, but to have those two kind of stalwarts, if you like, of goalkeeping coaching, then the two of them are quite influential, or very influential, in the UEFA goalkeeping pathway. So again, we piloted the UEFA Goalkeeper B diploma last year in Scotland, and it went well. Again, we've had a little bit of it online earlier today, and it seemed to go well. So that's very much in the development stages as well, but ready to be launched formally.
Right.
So you can see there
Will the Youth B license, will that be something that you could partner with the regular B license, just like the A is now, that you can do both in one time?
If you go back there, George, it says that I don't think so. No. You can integrate C into the B, and they have the combined B, A, and Elite Youth A. But no, I think they're talking about the Youth B being very much standalone, because you can go one of two ways, and you can go across there, or you might go up, and you might go back down. It just depends what level you're working at. So at this point in time, no, there's been no signs of that happening, George. So that's the hours. As you can see, like UEFA C, 60 hours. As I say, we're still waiting to see what exactly that 60 hours looks like, but the early indications are 30 hours off pitch, 30 hours on pitch. UEFA B license has always been 120. UEFA A license is 180 now. It used to be 120 up until I think about 3 or 4 years ago, and then they upped the ante. And again, that's that 50-50 split in terms of on-pitch learning and off-pitch learning. UEFA A, the same, although 180 hours, but off-pitch and on-pitch, 50-50 split. And then once you get to pro license level, they're asking for a little bit more experience of on-pitch, 40 hours off-pitch. As you can imagine, is absolutely huge. We can ask people to go and do these 220 hours experientially. I don't think they all need to be contact hours whilst the course is together. A lot of that can be done experientially, as I say. So the other courses then, the new courses that I've maybe just chatted about, the UEFA Youth B license is in there. So that's that 60 hours one, again, that 50-50 split. The Elite Youth A is a big one. The 60 and the 60 again, the 50 split. The combined one that George maybe just alluding to, but that's the Youth A, and the license brings us up to that 300, which is the 50-50 split. We don't have a futsal B. I'm not sure anybody does other than England in the UK, unfortunately. So we just can't. We've tried our best to get there, but we just can't get the courses to underpin a UEFA futsal B. And I quite often think to myself that maybe Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and ourselves should get together and maybe deliver one, and that might work in the future. And then said the UEFA goalkeeping B is slightly different. They don't do the 50-50 split. They've went for 20 hours off pitch and 40 hours on pitch. And then you've got the goalkeeping A, which is incredible. If you go back to the pro license and look at what the pro license ask was at 360 hours, and then the goalkeeping A license is exactly the same, 360. And I'm sure Alfie will have a wee chuckle when he knows what Packy Bonner's like then. I think that's a part-time course as far as Packy's concerned. When these goalies start talking, they like to talk. So that's a 360-hour course as well. So back to this then. If I concentrate on the kind of left-hand side of the pathway now, and maybe this kind of youth side. As it says there, for the B license, that probably answers your question there, George. To get onto that Youth B, you must hold a valid UEFA B license. To get onto the Elite Youth A, you must hold A license for at least a year, it says there. Or you can go that other route now. So there's two routes into that UEFA Elite Youth A license once this new Youth B comes out. You can either go along to go up, or you can go up to go along. just jumping from one pathway to the other. And the combined course as well, nothing really changes. But again, I can't underestimate just how much that UEFA B licence is integral, as I said at the start. UEFA are increasing as well their need and their want for this tier, people to have gained at least 1 year's experience after graduating with a B licence. I used to get phone calls all the time when I was in Ireland, and I'm probably still getting them, although not as much. But I need to get the B licence out of the way. You need to get the B licence out of the way. The B licence is meant to be difficult. The B licence is meant to be hard. You're meant to learn a lot. You're meant to implement that learning. But no, people wanted the B licence out of the way. So when UEFA came along and said, no, let's make this, you must have that 1 year experience between B licence and A licence, I think it was without doubt a good thing. So a 1 year experience between B and getting on that elite youth pathway. And I think there you can skip from the B diploma straight into the youth B. It just says, you must hold that. So there's no additional need for time there. And back to kind of the centre area and looking maybe at this time at the goalkeeping courses. So again, the goalkeeping courses, the interest in the goalkeeping B diploma, you must have the C. So that now becomes integral, and that can take you across to the B. You then go back along as a goalkeeping coach into the UEFA B diploma, and then up to the goalkeeping. So I must admit, I feel sorry for goalkeeping coaches sometimes with the UEFA pathway, because they've almost got to do two pathways, but a little bit like what the youth coaches have got to do. They've got, if you're a coach working at a senior club, if you're and you're a former professional player, you can go from B to A to pro. But again, if you want to work in the youth academy, you maybe need to go from B to A to elite youth A. If you're wanting to work with goalies, you need to go now, as it suggests, you need to go from C to goalkeeping B, back across to UEFA B to then get up to goalkeeper A, which is a tough ask. And I think in the Scottish FA we've made a decision to try and discount the UEFA B diploma for those that have already done the goalkeeping B diploma courses to try and help them out because of that need to jump from path to path. So the next one I probably want to mention, just from a Scottish FA perspective, is that we've got these specialist courses on the right hand side there, and you can see now, just as of last Thursday, we've launched this talent ID pathway. I'm pointing at the screen there, expecting you all to see it, and of course you can't see it, but where my cursor is there, this talent ID pathway we've launched last week. I'll come on to that in a little bit, but for now I'll touch on this kind of performance analysis pathway that we're maybe starting to look at and starting to build, which has basically been built from feedback from head coaches and managers. All very well having an analyst, but the analyst might miss something. The head coach will remain nameless, but I remember one head coach telling me a story that walking back into the dressing room at half time, telling the analyst to put a clip on it, something, and he hadn't even noticed the point that the head coach was trying to do, whether it was the fullback was too high or whatever the case was. He hadn't noticed it, and he was obviously, as you can imagine, quite annoyed about that. So it was that kind of idea, I suppose, that maybe a B licence holder might just have a little bit more about them, might just have a little bit more game knowledge about them. And it's another pathway, because as I said earlier, if we're putting 250 B licence holders through a year, then they're not all going to become head coaches. A route into the game might be through performance analysis, and they might actually be quite good at it. As I said there, it's an alternative pathway for employment. It adds to the coach's skill set, and we've linked it into ISPAS. Obviously, it's not got a UEFA accreditation, so we start looking about and we start thinking, well, how else can we link it in, and how else can we give it accreditation other than a Scottish FA award? And Ian Donnelly, that delivers the course for us, is heavily involved with ISPAS, the International Society of Performance Analysis for Sports. So it's quite good that they get that accreditation from them once they complete our courses. And we build in as well. Malcolm Mackay is always keen to add to our bank of analysts that can travel with their underage international squads. You'll appreciate that probably trips can happen whenever, well, not necessarily just now, but trips can happen wherever, and not always can the best analysts make it. So I think putting them through a bit of a training process as I said, it comes back to that alternative employment opportunity, and it does give opportunity perhaps of working with our underage international squads, should you come through that pathway with us as well. And the maybe underage international coaches that are working with us on these courses gets to know you a little bit, and that's worked well for us. So we've got a performance analysis level 1 course. We've also got a level 2. We've completed 1 level 2 course. I think we're up to maybe 5 level 1 courses just now. And it's the level 1 course that gives you that ISPAS level 1 accreditation, which works quite well. I quite often get criticised every time I advertise a performance analysis level 1 course and tell everyone that the minimum criteria is to have a UEFA B licence. Then the kind of analyst fraternity jump up and down and go start raving mad at me, because they think it's a joke that an analyst can't get on the course. But that's why we're building it. We're building it for, as I said earlier, these guys that are going through UEFA B licenses. So out of that probably stems the stuff here on the right hand side, and they need to maybe build a course for performance analysis within the club environment and give recognition to those guys that maybe have went down the pure analysis route and not the coaching route, to allow them in as well. We've done a few goalkeeping performance analysis, which is another area, interestingly enough, on that. And I just think performance analysis is growing all the time. And then we're maybe looking at other courses down here as well. How to work with an analyst. Some head coaches maybe don't even know how to work with an analyst. They've inherited an analyst, and just what do they ask the analyst to do? What can they specifically ask the analyst to do should probably be the question. Is it just a case of just give me your usual stuff on the Monday morning after the game, or should they then be asking for something specific? So a little course there on how to work with them more appropriately, and then another course there on an introduction to performance analysis, perhaps for those that aren't yet at B license level but maybe need or I've got a thirst to be upskilled and maybe working at a grassroots level. So I think that kind of performance analysis stuff grows all the time.
What kind of hours are you putting into those courses?
The level 1 course is a 2-day course. What we're doing just now is 3 or 4 evenings online, but it originally started as a 2-day course. Now, when I say it's a 2-day course, any analyst that you'll ever speak to will tell you what we normally do is run the course at Hampden. We start at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning and go through various things, and you'll appreciate, and this is the reason why the course isn't for analysts either, because that, some of that time they'll learn how to rig up, some of that time they'll learn how to code and tag different things, and then come 3 o'clock, we always tie it in at Hampden with a live game. So there's always a live game kicking off at 3 o'clock, maybe a Queen's Park match at Hampden. So the analysts will then tag that game live, or do as much as they can live, and then it'll disappear overnight. And what we try and do is we get either the Queen's Park manager back in first thing in the morning, or the opposition manager, depending on who they were playing, back into Hampden on the Sunday morning, and they do some kind of presentation back to the coach, or the coach will give a presentation to say, this is what he thought, and then that'll allow ideas to bounce back and forward between people and those analysts. But in terms of hours, it's a 15-hour course, but I dare say everybody's up through the night putting together those presentations and watching the game again and trying to form their analysis. So I think for the ISPAS accreditation, it's got to be a minimum of 15 hours anyway for level 1. But we're certainly at that. But it's it goes down as a 2-day course, George. But it's definitely a lot more, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. The last one there is this talent ID pathway that we've launched, and I'll chat you through that, I hope. So again, it's huge interest, and we used to have a basic scouting course, which was fine and served a purpose, but we just thought there was a need to professionalise the talent ID pathway. Again, there's too many holders, C licence holders, so again, it's similar to performance analysis. It might give an alternative pathway in employment, it might add to coaches' skill sets. There's no formal qualifications to be a scout. If you want to be a scout, and I'm even correcting myself because I'm told the word scout is old hat now, it should be talent ID. But there's no formal qualifications to be a talent ID. It's not like having a UEFA B licence. It's not like having a UEFA A licence to say you're a qualified coach. There is nothing to say you're a qualified expert, if you like, in talent ID. The role probably isn't that, the perception of it maybe perhaps isn't that professional, the perception, because people maybe look at it and they maybe think old-fashioned, the guy with the sheepskin coat standing at the side of a pitch and, just try to tap players and try to steal players. So I think that's important. I think we need to try and professionalise the role of the talent ID. And then I don't think people realise, certainly I never realised this when I started speaking to the guys that have helped write and deliver this course. There's a pathway there for a talent scout, or that probably you never realised. Talent scout can end up being a chief talent scout, can end up being a head of recruitment, can end up working now as, more and more in the game we're hearing about directors of football, sporting directors. That might be, in fact, where they started. They might not have started as a coach, they might not have started as a player, they might have actually started as a talent scout. So we've started, as I say, that pathway. To go back to that, George, to maybe, because it might be a question you ask again in terms of hours, the 1.1 course is 3 hours, 1.2 course is 3 hours, the 1.3 course is 3 hours as well, but that's then accessible. So we need you to do an opposition analysis, a player analysis, and submit that, as well as a multiple choice exam. So that becomes then accessible, so that it does become very much a talent ID award. So although that's 3 blocks of 3 hours, that there, 1.3, the talent ID award, would probably take you, I would imagine it would probably take you 10 hours by the time you complete the multiple choice as well as the player analysis. And then that will lead into a level 2 and hopefully even a level 3 and a level 4 thereafter. A lot of players just now, Robbie Nielsen just now, who's working on our UEFA licence with us as a tutor, current Dundee United manager, and Robbie's down in Manchester working away, doing an MSD, for example, and a master's in being a sports director. So, I think we need to try and get to that as well. And so we need to try and align in time once we've only launched this, and we're not even up here, and I'm already talking about, maybe getting up here and aligning ourselves to a university again to get that to get that accreditation and professionalisation and what we're trying to achieve there. So that's kind of our new pathways, and I hope I've filled the brief that you wanted me to kind of chat through. Any of you, I'm happy that anybody gets in touch, whether it be with Twitter, we're on that Facebook group. I'm not sure what happens on Instagram, but I try my best. I'm not sure I'm great at it. But email's probably the best way, and there's no way I'm putting my phone number up there because it already rings far too much as it is. And that's the wee hashtag we use for all the social media that we do. So guys, that's it really from me, other than to say thank you for listening, and I'll probably stop my screen there, I think, and maybe take any questions.
Yeah, no, thank you, Greg. So just on the one of the coaching pathway, obviously you alluded to the fact like the B license plays a pivotal part and probably one of the biggest parts in terms of what you'll experience on the pathway from when you start out. What do you think is maybe the biggest differences between the previous course, the level 2? What are those differences, and maybe how can coaches on the call, for instance, best prepare for that B license?
I think as you go up, the obvious answer, Lloyd, to all, as you go up the pathway is detail. The tutors and myself and everyone else, everyone will look for more detail. So as you get to, if you're working with a back 4, our C license level, if you're working for a back 4 at pro license level, it's about detail, and the detail you give those players and the specificity of what you're doing. You might get away with your back 4 being a little bit too deep in a C license, but you certainly won't get away with it at pro license level. So as I say, it's really for me, as you go through that, it's about detail. What we do in the Scottish FA, rightly or wrongly as well, is C license level just now we maybe only deal with 4-4-2 and 4-3-3. But currently just now on the A license, we're looking at 8 different systems to play. So B license we look at 3. So C license we look at 2, B license we look at 3, and now on A license just now we look at 8. So ramping it up all the time, just in terms of detail, in terms of subject matter. It's just trying to align with people's experience, I suppose, in the game as well.
Great. And I know from a chat me Greg, and George had, you mentioned mentoring and the effect that mentoring has on that coach development. Don't know if you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, mentoring. Listen, mentoring. I think everybody should have a mentor, but I think everyone's got to. If you can get 2 mentors, 3 mentors, and you might need to have mentors in different areas. I think more and more, as I deal, I've maybe got a 13-year career now in terms of, being head of coach education and development, whether it's here in Scotland or over in Ireland. But I think what I have noticed over that 13-year period is that it's not just about coaching anymore. Mental health, for example, launching a mental health awareness course and a couple of weeks ago, that wouldn't have been the case 10 years ago, but it's now much needed. Performance psychology is now much needed. I've already talked about performance analysis. We're talking about talent ID. We're talking about all these different things that are coming into the game. So the reason I'm saying that, and to answer your question, is you might have a mentor who's a very good coach and can mentor you through the coaching thing. But I do think you need maybe a mentor in other areas as well. If you've got one mentor that can cover everything, great. But I do think you maybe need to take stock and think to yourself, is that mentor appropriate? Sometimes you maybe outgrow the mentor. If you're pushing up that pathway as well, you might have a mentor who's a UEFA license holder and you think that's great, but have they invested in their own learning? Have they really invested in, are they going back to do things? Are they keeping themselves modern and, at the cutting edge? So I think for me, everyone needs a mentor, but I think you've got to take stock and make sure that mentor is absolutely appropriate for that point in your career that you're at, or that point in your journey that you're at. And that mentor should always be at least one or two steps above that, at least 1 or 2 steps, because that's what you're trying to get to.
Sure, I think that's a good point. So yeah, no, I think that was a great point you made about maybe the same mentor that you had when you first started. You might need to find a new mentor as you maybe continue working within coaching. That mentor might be maybe just someone who wants to work at the same level because of certain different things, for instance, and trying to assess who might be the next mentor is, I suppose, is key to keep. I don't think
nobody should be too proud to have a mentor. I'm fortunate. That people I've mentioned people already on this webinar, that I can pick up the phone to, and I don't think that could be. Don't think it can be underestimated at all. It's vitally important. I can think back to many a time during my career that I've had to pick the phone up. I think back to a funny story back in Ireland, and dealing with a course with 8 of the senior professionals. Talking about guys with 50 caps and things here, and with a little issue, and bloody hell, what did I do? I'd never dealt with players at that level before, but I was fortunate I could pick up the phone to a mentor and get an opinion before I then made a decision on how to take that forward. You're dealing with millionaires, you're dealing with professional players, as I say, with 50 odd caps. So I say I've never coached at that level, but so I had to phone someone that fortunately I can call a mentor that has worked at that level.
Great.
You were obviously saying there should be a year between your licenses now. Is that right from the C, B to A? And how important do you think that development year is for people? I mean, do you have people on the B that perhaps after 6 months could be ready for the A? I mean, how important is it to have that complete year?
Yeah, listen, of course there might be people ready earlier than others. Of course there might be. So just to clarify though, between C and B, UEFA are suggesting there's 6 months. Mm-hmm. Between B and A, they're also suggesting that there's a year. And then between A and Pro, there must be a year now. Again, I've had some interesting conversations with people from other countries, because a year in working in the Scottish Professional League might be completely different to a year working in a part-time league in Malta. And I hope I'm not offending anybody by saying that. But if I'm only working at a part-time club, my year's experience is a lot less than a full-time year. So let's say, for example, George, you're working at a Maltese Premier League club who are only part-time. Mm-hmm. But I'm working at Rangers or Celtic Football Club in Scotland, and my year's full-time. So my year is going to be completely different to your year. So the rules and the regulations that UEFA have put in are quite different for you and I. And I'll gain as much experience as you will in a year, probably in 6 months, because I'm dealing with players on a day-to-day basis. I'm creating my training session plans. I'm doing everything else. I'm dealing with contracts or whatever on a daily basis. You're dealing with that maybe every second or third day on a part-time basis. So listen, you can argue either way, but I do understand why UEFA put it in place, and it's to basically allow people to implement the learning from the lower level before they kick on. It's to stop people being on that rush. What they've also done recently as well, pro license level, every country is only allowed to deliver one pro license once every 2 years now, and on that course there's only allowed to be 20 people. So they're really trying to make that as elite as they possibly can. You know, I talk about that basic, you know, amount of B license courses there are now, the amount of B license holders there are, but that's getting narrower and narrower. You know, even 18 months ago we delivered a pro license to 28, 29 people. Now we can only take 20. So, you know, that's a lot of people. Our next pro license course, we're taking applications up until the end of August. We've already got 50 applications. We've still got another 2 months to go in terms of an application window. We've already got 50. We can only take 20 of them. Yeah. We can only take 20 of them, so it's tough. So I can understand why they're putting them in place. I think the experiential learning part of it is crucial. No matter what you do in life, whether you're an accountant or whether you're a coach, it's the same thing, isn't it? The qualification's one thing, but it's that learning on the pitch that you really, really need to do. It's the learning on the job that you need to do. I think I read an academic study. I always tell this story that I must dig it out from somewhere. But the academic study argued that coach education was actually only worth 20% of someone's overall development. And I get that, I understand that. I know my place is a kind of coach educator and a head of coach education, but you know, if it is only 20%, wow, then that 80% is a shift. Because everybody says, oh, the B license was hard and the A license was hard, but think about the experiential learning there. That's tough. That's a big ask. So I can definitely understand why they have put it in place, and I do think there's a purpose for it.
Brilliant.
Great. So we've got quite a few questions just coming in at the chat, which is great. So we'll start with Andrew. Andrew's just asked, how key is having a base at Oriam in relation to the delivery of coach education?
When you live in Troon, which is on the other side of the country, it's a pain in the backside, Andrew, but in all seriousness, it's been excellent. Don't get me wrong, what are we in Oriam now? Maybe 2 years. There was always teething problems. We share it with rugby. So it can be difficult for us to get access to as much as we'd like. But yeah, I mean, it's a facility, and it's great to be there now. And I think as things evolve and as things move on, it's difficult. Change is always difficult for people. You know, Largs, you've probably maybe all heard about the Largs Mafia, which was just that traditional, we did everything down at Largs, but now, will in 10 years' time will be known as the Oriam Mafia. I'm not so sure, but, it's just fantastic to have a base where we've also got Scottish FA offices. It's fantastic. And then, of course, when your international teams are training there, and if we can align our international teams training there at the same time as we're maybe delivering coach education, then there's that, we can come together and we can learn from one another. You're in the hotel and you're maybe sitting down chatting to the players, or sitting down chatting to the coaches. That type of learning can't be underestimated either, that type of opportunity. Even now and again, even just walking by and bumping into Gregor Townsend, and just getting a little chat with Gregor, who's always just so open and approachable, and learn things from, rugby and other sports that might be there. So no, it is a fantastic addition. There's no doubt to what we're trying to do.
Brilliant. There's a question from Craig, and it's kind of concerning more the practical assessments in terms of courses that have now started online. And do you have anything lined up right now, maybe a way to alternatively assess people, or is it kind of just at the mercy of COVID and CF?
No, it's not. I mean, we've worked very hard to get course delivery, I suppose, online at this point in time. We've worked very hard with Ian Donnelly, that maybe Craig will know as well from the course, and we'll continue to work with Ian, and we'll offer. I think, you know what, it was in my mind, and I'm not just saying this, but it was in my mind 6 months ago, bloody hell, we could almost get to an online B licence course. In Canada, we'll speak to Richie Wilson, who's our coach ed manager. Richie's got a good relationship with the guys out in the Canadian FA, or Canadian Soccer Association, as they call themselves, and they deliver 100% online. The landmass in Canada is just ridiculous, as you know. You know, you can travel on a plane for 4 hours and still be in Canadian land airspace. So they chat about, we kind of spoke to them quite a bit about how they do their not their UEFA B licence, sorry, their Canadian B licence, 100% online. So it was always like an idea. It was always an idea. It might be difficult because of the UEFA criteria, because if it's online, then nobody really needs to touch base in Scotland, which is difficult, and something that UEFA would need to consider. But as we've moved through that kind of period of looking at other associations, and I'm always keen to benchmark against others, and as we've moved through that period, certainly started looking at online tools, and Ian Donnelly and iSports Analysis have built a fantastic tool where we can have dialogue. So George, you might upload your session, you might clip your own session, and I can either see that in real time, or I can log on a couple of hours later that evening and look at all your tags, all your comments. I can then make counter comments, and we can have that conversation back and forth, which would certainly serve as an online assessment. So I think it's got to happen more. So the other, you know, I've thrown criteria in about admission to courses from UEFA. UEFA have also, through the last UEFA Coaching Convention conference in November last year, we've also kind of upped the ante in terms of assessments. You know, and they're now saying that UEFA A licence, you must be assessed in your own environment. So that's a huge undertaking for us. You know, but the amount of people we get on a UEFA A licence, we can no longer bring them into that central venue. Yeah. You know, we've now got to go to, there's 80 people on our UEFA A licence this week. So we now got to send someone 80 times to a club to see that person working at their own club. And it's not only 80 times, it would be 160, because the criteria is that they must deliver a training session, and you must also see them lead a match. So that's essentially 2 visits per candidate times 80 is 106. There's a full-time job for somebody by the time you write up all those assessments and everything else as well. You know, but it can't be just one full-time job, because you can't say, oh, by the way, you're 80th on the list. You know, I'll get to you in 79 days' time. So it's a big ask from UEFA, but I think it's the right one to do. You know, it's back to these reality-based principles, in that the reality is that they're at their own club. You know, coach education courses, again, traditionally have always been very sterile, I suppose, for want of a better, you know, you've got 16 players, you've got 2 goals, you've got a bag of 20 balls, you've got 20 bibs. That never happens, does it? At the club, that never happens.
Someone's always late, right?
Correct. Someone's always late, depending what level of game you're working at. Somebody's late, or somebody's cards broke down, or if you're working at the elite level of the game and maybe working with an under 19 team or a reserve team, the manager's saying to you, by the way, I need you right back and your striker. Why? He said, because I need them for my training session, because I want to work on shaping. So all of a sudden you've lost those 2 key players in your session, and you've got to adapt. You know, and you talk about Oriam, bumping into the guys at Hearts at Oriam, and you know, there was a time we were in delivering the B licence there during one of the international breaks, and John Daly was working with, I think, 8 players each day, 8 players, because, you know, players were away on international duty and different things. So again, that's the reality. He's working with 8 players. You're not working with sometimes the nice, pretty 16 players that are all bibbed up in the perfectly pumped up balls and whatever else. So you know, in terms of assessments, we need to get more reality based, I think, and yes, part of that will need to be via online. And certainly as we come out of this COVID storm, you know, we'll have a huge backlog, because we've started delivering new courses again, as well as the courses that, you know, we should have been assessing just now. So we've now got to do coaching practice for the current courses, as well as catch up on all those assessments. So there's a hell of a amount of work to be done there. So the more people that can, you know, that will be able to put their hand up and say, do you know what, Greg, I'll do it online, you know, then we'll work with that. And I'm sure it'll not be any worse. In fact, again, it's that crystal ball gazing. Will that actually probably be the way we do most things? I'm, you know, pretty certain it will.
Yeah, I mean, I think the online and the video and things gives you a good platform to still be able to assess those small details in the sessions that you want the coaches to think about and look at.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the biggest things that, they need to get out of their sessions. So
it's a funny thing chatting to, we've got a good working relationship with Ian Barker, who's director of coaching with the United Soccer Coaches, and Ian's not keen on it because Ian thinks that you might record a session. He likes them being under pressure, so he likes standing in the sideline, knowing that the tutor's there or the assessor's there, and they're under that little bit of pressure. So he doesn't like the fact that you might record a session, George, and then go, do you know what? I'm not uploading that. There's no way. I'll not pass with that session. So it might be the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th session that you eventually upload. And I get his point, because you can't just become an expert in that one session, And if I look back again traditionally on coach education, and if I look at my B license journey 24 years ago, I picked out a hat across the face runs. And that's all I learned. And because I didn't know much else about the game at the time, so I just learned across the face runs to get through that B license. Then as soon as I got into the A license, I didn't have a clue what was going on, but I only knew about cross the face runs. So I think I take Ian's point that, every session should be different. You shouldn't just be practicing across the face runs 8 times to make sure you pass your B license. So it should be, George, go and deliver a session now. So it's things like that we need to, you can argue back by saying, well, how about we only give George a day's notice to record a session and get it back in, and you must. There's ways and means. There's ways and means, I think, to do things to make sure that it's definitely reality-based.
Brilliant.
There's a question, like a double-barrel question here from Neil. Can you still apply to get on your A? And do you need, if you complete licensing through the Scottish FA, do you need to fulfil CPD with the Scottish FA to keep that license valid?
Can you still apply to go onto your A license? I think we're bursting at the seams for next week. I think we're bursting at the seams for next week, but I think Alfie might jump on and correct me here, but I think we've hit a bit of a perfect storm at this point in time. We have been able to provide during COVID, and we're proud of that, because I genuinely believe we've built something good, and we've got good numbers on our courses. Aligned with that as well is the fact that UEFA have relaxed their rulings, and that more candidates can come from abroad. So Northern Ireland and countries like Northern Ireland, Wales, England, or we all speak the same language. So there's it's easy for people to jump from one of those countries to another. It's maybe less difficult for Scandinavians to jump from Sweden to Norway because it's a different language. So it makes that marketplace a little bit more competitive, I think. So if somebody's worked with Alfie in Northern Ireland, they can actually now come to Scotland. There used to be a 10% ruling from UEFA, but they realised that European legislation, they just couldn't stand over it any longer. So the ruling is now that we must reserve at least 30% of places, for Scottish coaches. So that makes it easier for people from other countries to now apply, if they've got a UEFA B licence elsewhere, to now apply for a UEFA licence with the Scottish FA, is my long-winded answer. So yes, you can still apply. Once you then pass the course, you can do your CPD. Well, you can do your CPD elsewhere. Yeah, no problem with that. What you would then do is file a report back to us, because your license, your UEFA license, is what you must keep valid with the Scottish FA. So if you complete your UEFA license with the Scottish FA, you must keep that license valid with the Scottish FA. So if you go and live in, let's say, England, you can't keep it valid with the English FA. You can go and do English FA UEFA certified CPD events, but the report and everything must come back to us so that we can update your record to say that you've completed those CPD events. So we'll get a lot of that every year. Lloyd, you might go and visit, let's say you're on holiday and decide to go and spend 3 days at Atletico Madrid. And we'll say, okay, Lloyd, can you submit a report on Atletico Madrid, what you saw? And we'll have a look at that and we'll say, okay, that's maybe worth 8 hours. Your report you've compiled on that visit. And we'll then update your record. And the CPD obviously being the 15 hours every 3 years to keep your license active. CPD is a whole other thing. CPD is a whole, you think about, all those courses that I went through, and that's CPD wasn't even mentioned on all those courses and all those pathways. CPD is a whole other business almost, in terms of what you can provide, because as I said earlier, so many more people going through B licenses. You know, we're talking about UEFA B youth licenses and UEFA Elite A youths and goalkeeping courses and all those UEFA licenses, but they all fall under the same banner in that you must attain a minimum of 15 hours CPD every 3 years. So that's just becoming mega in terms of the amount of people trying to attain CPD as well.
Brilliant. One final question just in here, and it's from Ian, who asked about the performance analysis certification and asked if is there a focus on formal data analysis within that?
What was the first part, sorry?
It's basically just asking, does the SFA performance analysis certification have much focus on formal data analysis?
Does it? No, it doesn't. It's about performance analysis. It's about tagging games. We do recognise it. There's a little bit more in the level 2. We have a guest speaker on it, Neil McAlargy, who's currently working at Manchester United. Neil's probably one of Neil's strengths are in that area. Neil comes in and presents on it. So yes, we do touch on it, but it's not the central focus of it. The central focus is, you know, the tagging of games, how to present that back to a manager. You know, the questions and answers you might get from a manager, the recommendations for training sessions. It's about that kind of training cycle rather than actual analytics in themselves. But as I say, Neil touches on that very well. Neil's worked with, I think he worked with Malky at Watford and maybe Cardiff, I'm not sure, can't remember, but he's now at Manchester United. So it's great to have him input to the course in that area of his specialism.
Brilliant. Awesome. Greg, thanks so much for joining us this evening. I think we can conclude there. Lots of good information to digest on the courses. We really appreciate your time. I know you're busy right now with a few of the other courses going on, and the A's just started, so you'd be on there. Where is the best place for people to find out more information about the courses that you have on offer?
I don't know. I mean, probably the Facebook page is probably good, although it's nuts. It's just nuts just now. You know, it's tough just now because staff are furloughed, because we have managed to offer things online. It's just crazy. You know, we've had to bring another admin assistant out of furlough, but we're still getting about 700 emails overnight. Apparently they get down to about 500 come 5 o'clock, and it's up at 700 again the following day. So it's just nuts just now. But best place is Scottish FA website. I probably don't do enough on that. It's probably Twitter, my Twitter feed. The other coach education staff's Twitter's decent for it. As I say, the Facebook page can be a bit nuts at times because people just don't read. This is the problem. People don't read anymore, do they? You just want to press a button and get the information instantly. But the information is somewhere on that Facebook page that I try my best to cleanse amongst all the questions. But the Facebook page is decent. Scottish FA Live, but then you've got to know Scottish FA Live's what you do to go on any of our courses, and that's the booking engine that we have. But you've got to know what you're looking for, I suppose, before you go in that. So coaching@scottishfa.co.uk is probably the best email, and you can become the 701st one in there tomorrow morning.
Brilliant. Appreciate it. And as always, follow us on Twitter if you haven't already, the Halftime Review. We're also on YouTube, so you can watch back this webinar and any previous webinars that we have done to date. And lastly, we now have a website, www.halftimereview.co.uk. And again, it's got lots of information on there, lots of news, lots of updates, and upcoming and past webinars on there as well. Greg, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thanks everyone else for joining us too. We'll see you all soon.